Yep, it's penguin time. Anyway, it wasn't a good look. Whee! There's the third one. All right. Yes, we can have fun. Don't take yourself too seriously. Anyway, so it's Labor Day weekend, and I got a couple of hones out here on the bench. And I actually, this one really surprised me. I thought it was like going to be, your average, stone. But again, it's got these chisel marks on the back. Can you see? You can catch that right there. You go. And whenever I see that, it's always like a thing for me, and I don't know what it means, and there's no rule or whatever. But when I see that, I usually want to take a closer look at the stone, and every time I do, I'm more than pleasantly surprised. So basically, I just shave with this, which is your, essential cheapo blade, Dwayne cutlery or something. It's a Solingen, I guess, maybe full hollow or something like that. Pretty hollow. It's had some horrible honing work done to it. It's got some home wear on the spine, whatever. I don't care too much about this, that type of thing. Cheap scales. I think this might have cost me like $10, maybe less. I don't know. It's a cheap blade. Anyway, so I had honed this, and I had worn it to a point where, I wanted to do at least a touch up. So I got this baby out. All right, so we got a nice sweeter. This is Okudo Shiro. Yeah, it's Shiro. It's not Renge. It's not Han. It's definitely Shiro. But it's got like lots of lines in it, and it's kind of a weird shape, but it's skinny, which I'll get to in a minute. But anyway, it's a real nice hone to hone on, and basically I use this for like a mid-range type of thing, or actually it lives in the kitchen. I like to use it on knives if I want to do like a quick tune-up on like a chef's knife or something. Like last night I was barbecuing. I wanted to butterfly some cutlets, so I wanted to put like a little bit of a smooth edge on, and this worked great. Anyway, I actually made a video of me butterflying that cutlet, well, one of them, and put it on my Instagram. So that doesn't mean anything. I don't even know why I mentioned it. Anyway, so I got this out because I wanted to get this edge a little further back, and then build up forward. Right, that's one of the things I do if I'm doing like more of a touch up. It's honing, and it's a touch up because I'm not going to bevel. I'm not going all the way back to post bevel. Somewhere's in the middle, right? So this does a great job, and like I said, it's thin. So I'll get to that in a minute. And then this is what I finished on. And between the two, I didn't even use any Macau and Nagura, which, normally I will, but I don't all the time. It's like, I've said it before, I like to just hone on feeling. I had this blade in my hand, and I just thumb pad tested it back by the heel, and I was like, I want to do some work on that baby. Haven't shaved with it in a while, but I could tell. Just didn't feel right. So, so basically I got this out, and, people have asked me to do videos on topics, and maybe I will do a video on this topic, but see, to me it's not a topic. To me it's like something that just happens. People say, oh, Keith, how do you evaluate a razor, when you get it, like what kind of honing you're going to do? And it's like, I don't. I guess I do, but I don't make any pomp and circumstance out of it. I don't have any diagnostic tests. I'm not that guy. That level of pomp and circumstance doesn't like have a place in my life. Not for honing, maybe for other disciplines, but for honing, to me, it's like I have this level of comfortability. So I get a blade, and I look at it, and if I don't see any like major grief, like holes and giant chips, whatever, big wads of rust, basically I just sit down, I cut a new bevel on a bevel setter, usually a synth, like my 1.5K Shapton, and then I figure out like how I'm going to progress from there. So some blades are warped, some have smiles, some are like jacked, the grind is off. It's like, it's not even like a warp, it's like a warp across two axes. So like, getting it flat on the stone, which is what you need. I lap my stones flat, and I hone on flat stones. I don't like to hone on stones that are not flat. I can, I choose not to. It removes a variable I don't need to deal with, So in the course of honing, right, my evaluation comes from inspection and feel. You can feel on the stone, and you can see in your undercut, you can see kind of like what's going on sometimes. And those are indicators and those are tells, and that tells you, those tells tell you, that's what they call tells. They tell you what's going on with your blade, right? Or the state of your blade, or the state of your geometry, or, whatever. Yeah, that looks pretty badass, right? Really like this stone. Yeah, I got a little bit of a matching Nagura for it too. So let me just like bring up a little bit of, I'm making a mess here. Oh no, I'm making a mess. Anyway, I want to thank all of you for surviving the inaugural flight of my new intro. It's a little longer than the last one, but I just kind of wanted to do something different, and I didn't get rid of the old one. I'm going to save it. I might use it still, but this new one, and there's an outro too, so be warned, be warned. At the end, there's going to be a new outro. Not really into like high production, but yeah, I kind of just get tired and feel motivated to do something. Anyway, so I got a slurry going on here, and you can see that raising the slurry isn't like all that easy. So this is a pretty hard sweeter, and so is that sweeter tomo. But all right, so you just got to be careful. Now this isn't a dead flat stone right now. All right, it's flat. It was lap flat. There was an angle in the top, like one side. This side here was much higher than this, so I put some effort into what do you call it? Straightening that out. Now, you see me, I got both hands on the blade right now, which is not my normal thing. I mean, it is a normal thing for me, but I don't do it all the time. It's a normal thing when I want to do it. But what I want to try and do, because of the slurry, there's so much of it, it's going to be difficult for me to show you, especially on this stone. But here, let me try just getting some slurry off of there. Alright. Alright, if you're watching the blade, right, over here, there's no undercut. Right? There's not even an attempt to undercut. I'm going to try and go a little slow. Right? See? Now, that tells me that there could be a couple of things going on. The stone could not be flat, or the blade might be a little warped. So if I just lap the stone, I'm going to probably think it's going to be the blade. So what I'll do is, instead of going through like this, sit down and pull out the micrometer and match it a profile up to no, I don't do that, right? I got a loop, right? And I take this loop and I look at the edge, right? And I look at the striations, and then I hone some more, and then I go back and I look at the edge, the bevel, and I check the striations. Now, that time frame is usually like 5 or 6 passes, so my brain is remembering what I saw on the first view, striations wise. So when I go back and I look, I can see the difference, and I can look at the bevel, and if it's even across, then I know I'm hitting. But in this particular case, I can tell you it's not going to be even, because I don't have undercut across the full length of the blade. Why? Because there's a little tiny bit of a warp, and when I hone this blade, I mean, I've done it before, so I know this. I'm talking to you now to explain, and I'm kind of pretending that I didn't know this, but I do. But if this was the first time I was honing it, these are the things I would do. These are the things I would see. This is the method I would use to assess the situation. All right, so I guess I do evaluate, but I don't sit down and go through this like, oh, let me do the shake and bake test on. No, I don't do that. Okay, it's unimportant to do that for me. All right, the stuff reveals itself, basically it reveals itself naturally, in the course of honing. I don't find that I need to know any of that before I sit down. I just, that's me. Other people can argue the point, and that's fine. Go argue the point. Is what I do. It may not be what you do. All right, so what I'm doing here now, and I'm using my finger. See how I'm rocking? All right, I'm going to put a little bit of rock into my stroke, and you can see that doing that is helping me to pick up undercut. Now, can you do this one-handed? Of course, I do it one-handed all the time. Right? I use the second finger, and I know this is a heinous crime against the shaving and honing poobahs. But I use this finger to help me rock the blade back. And when I come to the tip, if I have to come up, and on this blade I do, see how I'm coming up here? This kind of just helps me just sort of do this, right? It's just kind of a guide, all right? There's no downward force to speak of. There is some, of course. There's gravity and everything else that goes on. But it's not like I'm grinding, based on that, all right? So this stone, this sweeter, is a doll. All right, it's nice and fast. It's hard enough to finish on if you want to. If you want that cuticle on steroids type of edge. The other thing about it, because it's narrow. Like this isn't really warped, it's just slightly warped. But if you had like, some warp to contend with, let's say I have, say this is a blade, right? So let me fold it. All right, so let's just say this is a razor. I know it's a Post-it, all right? So don't give me a hard time, all right? So it's a blade. So let's just say the blade is warped. All right, so if you have warp, right, it's going to do that. I mean, this is extreme. If your blade is that warped, throw the freaking razor out and get one that doesn't look like this. This is for the sake of demonstration. All right, so anyway, so you got the warp, right? So if you have a narrow stone, well, actually, I can do it better here. All right. Let's say you want to use the edge. So the edge, when you have that curve, right, the narrow part, right, gets up in there better. Right. Now, it's not a perfect solution. Okay, honing on a skinny stone is going to help you. It's not a perfect solution. It's not going to carry the entire weight of your job for you. Okay? That's just not going to happen. You need to be on point. Let me say it again. Hello? You got to be on point. All right? Because you saw here with this thing. All right, let me move this out of the way again. Again, for the sake of demonstration. You see how the curve, right? You see how the narrow stone can get up in there, but you'll notice it's not a perfect fit because there's always curvature coming up. So you need to kind of go across in an X pattern. You need to have a decent amount of slurry to take up some of that room. Okay? And sometimes what you wind up having to do is with the skinny stone, all right, let's just say I'm actually honing on something that thin, all right, you're going to wind up having to, I don't know if I can do it. You're going to wind up having to drop the heel lower as you're coming across the stone, all right, to make sure that you maintain contact across the entire bevel. All right, that may have been the worst demonstration possible of that particular event, but sorry, I wasn't prepared. So basically, I'll try and do it better here. Is, let's just say I had a little bit of concave, all right? In other words, the middle of the blade is higher, right? And I'm using this narrow stone to get up into that curve. So what I'm going to wind up doing is sort of coming off the stone, and I'm going to be a little lower. I'm going to want to put the stone at the edge of the block, or maybe even use 2 blocks. So when I'm coming off, I'm actually rolling down. Now, the curve that's concave here, well, it's concave on the inside, it's convex, it's point of view, okay? So if the curve is higher, like this, right? That type of thing, when you turn it over, it's like it's shaped the other way. So then all you have to do is basically hone with a stroke that goes that way, right? So that's kind of like what goes on here when I'm honing, and I got something that I want to work on that isn't straightforward. That is, if you have a flat blade and a flat stone, you don't have to deal with any of that stuff, you know. Yeah, this is my bench stone sweeter. I think I showed this to you guys in the last video. Again, beautiful stone, right? And again, I want to try and pick up some undercut back here. You can't really see it, but I can. I can see the gap, like right at the heel, because of my perspective. I don't want to move the camera because that would screw everything up. So all I got to do is I got to bring this down and in, and a little pressure in there, and you see, boom, instant. You can see it, right? Boom. See the undercut? Okay. Tells me I'm on the stone, right? Alright, so that's just the same look on another stone. And the difference is this is a wider stone, so it's a little harder for me to work on. In one sense, it's a little harder to work on. I don't stress on working with skinny stones. It's a nice option. I usually have a bunch around just because, but I'm not one of the people that say, oh, you should have skinny stones to work on warp blades. Yeah, there's a way to use them, and that can help you out. And a million ways to skin a cat. So anyway, that's one way to skin that cat. Just figured I'd bring it up. So anyway, so this stone, right, this thing blew my mind. This thing put an edge on like wowza, man. Yeah, seriously. I thought this was going to be like a mundane, typical barber hone size copa, and I paid more for it, and I figured I was paying more because the size, the shape, the cuts on the back and all of that. Those stones sometimes cost more when you buy from collectors like I do, sometimes, often, usually. They'll bump because of that, because they know other people are looking for it. So it's like a thing. It's more of a commodity that way. Anyway, so that's my view on camera. Let me check my monitor. Yeah, monitor. My monitor is a shaving mirror. No joke. It's propped up behind my iPhone, which is my camera. And so I'm looking at everything in reverse. So what I see is backwards. Anyway, so get this baby going. Now the feel here, man, it's not glassy, but it's almost free of friction. It's just smooth as hell. I could hone on this stone for a week continuously until I wore it to freak out. That's how nice this stone is. And again, now, because, we know the stone has we know the blade has a, what do you call it? A little bit of a warp to it. It's got a couple of things going on. The scales are really loose and it's pissing me off, and I feel like just literally, I feel like going and getting a hammer and tapping it down. You know what? I'm going to do it because it's driving me nuts. Hold on. This is why I never get anything done. Okay, so here I got my hammer. I get myself boom. Let me wipe the blade down. This thing here, this is a weight from an old bakery scale. It's a long story how it got here. I'm not getting the greatest hit on this that I would like because it's on top of something that's giving. Like there's a towel down. Let me feel that. Could be better. All right? So anyway, yeah, don't be afraid to do stuff like this. You're in the middle of honing and you realize your pin is too soft. Yeah, that's much better. All right. Yeah, just go for it, man. It's like, don't wait till later. Don't procrastinate. Screw that, man. You got to have good feel. And to have good feel, like, part of that is the blade sitting right in the scales. You don't want that floppy back and forth nonsense. I don't. I mean, if it makes you happy, that's fine. Keep on keeping on there with that. Yeah, see, this is much more secure now. Yeah, so most of you are probably like, what's wrong with him? Why didn't you just wait till later? Because this is real. This is me. This is how I do stuff. All right. I have, in the middle of honing, dried the blade off, unpinned it, cleaned it out, and then repinned it. Takes me about 5 minutes. I have parts all over the place, and like sometimes I even have a pin out on the bench in like a little cup somewhere, just because, like, those things, like when you need them, you don't want to have to go and search for it. And with razors, if you're constantly working on them, I am, and that type of thing is like whatever. I'm not particularly careful in the bathroom. I get water in the pivot all the time. It's wet shaving. I get wet. So does the razor. I am not going to sit around and, like, be all like uber fussy. I'm just not that guy, So yeah, in the middle of honing, I'll stop the pin, repin, readjust, whatever it takes, But this is much better for me because now this is sitting in my hand the right way. And this right here, this, see how I have this? As silly as it seems, this is really important to my honing. Okay? That's just how I am. I like that consistency every time. I want the blade to, and the scales to be tensioned in at least a particular way. Oh, that was fun. Okay. All right, so I'm back here. You can probably pick up that I'm doing like that roll. So yeah, whatever the geometry is on the blade, I usually just sort of dope it out as I'm going along. I don't make it an extra step, and I don't add any drama to the situation. I don't really worry about it. My ability to adapt to a convex or a whatever you want, concave. The ability to adapt to those things is developed. It's something that I've worked on, and it's not shocking to me, and it's nothing I have to really think about it. Um, Not trying to sound like a snob, but that's just how it is. And to be honest, like that stuff came to me naturally because it's geometry. I've always been good with geometry, and none of it was like really shocking. I thought I invented something, and then Brian Brown described the rolling X stroke to me, and I was like, oh crap, I've been doing that for weeks. You have a name for it? Because it just made sense to me when the toe of a blade was up off the stone. It was obvious that the only way to get it on the stone was to position it with the heel up so you could get to it. So I just did it naturally, you know. And I think if I encourage anything in the world of honing is to have a really organic, natural, confident type of posture when you are involved with this stuff. And it's difficult because you go to forums, you go to Facebook groups, and there's all the bravado, there's all the dick measuring, there's all of the hype and the hidden agendas, people and their crew trying to steer it to their buddy so you can buy one of their raises or one of their hone jobs or whatever. And yeah, that stuff happens, man. Like, there's a lot of shilling going on out there. And it doesn't look like it, okay? But from the outside looking in, you take a couple of steps back, you're like, oh, yeah, right, I got you now. Yeah, wait a minute. How much am I paying this guy to hone? What razor? Paying somebody $20 to hone a $5 razor, man, that's about as dumb as it gets. But I can understand why people wind up going there, because they got sold the bill of goods. All right, so oh my, I think I just let the cat out of the bag. Anyway, yeah, I'm just like kind of in a rare mood. We had a barbecue yesterday, and we had a good friend over, and it was like a great time. And today, my girl and I are just kind of like digesting the mass quantities we consumed, and we're just kind of getting through our respective days fairly easily. All right, I had a bunch of things to put up on Etsy. The sweeter it went up live today. I'm rotating it out of the kitchen and putting another stone in there starting next week. And this little pocket rocket guy is probably going to go up tomorrow. Well, it's not really a pocket rocket, it's a cut above, so just going in as a regular copa. I think there's another stone here that's going in. I don't know. I get confused. Yeah, so there's that. Oh, yeah. There was actually a pocket rocket I put up early this morning. Seems people are buying them up. Yeah, price is good. Performance is great. You need a little stone. Hard to beat. This one here, though, I wish you could feel this. It's kind of like it's the darndest thing. It approaches that melting chocolate bar feeling. Like if you had a block of chocolate and you were running a warm blade over the top, the warm blade would melt the chocolate enough where it would be like kind of slick, but there would still be the texture in the chocolate, And that's kind of what this is like. But at the same time, it's smoother than that. And it's kind of unique. It's not glassy at all. I don't have that heavy glass feeling where it's like you got a stupid hard stone that feels like it's so brittle, like a loud noise will make it shatter. It's not that at all, right? I can tell by the way the slurry is working on it, that this is a very fine stone. When I say fine, I mean both in fine in the sense that, the particles are fine, and it's hard because it hones fine, but it's a very fine quality stone. Also, it's very consistent. I'm more than convinced that, well, I've already shaved off of it, but when I was honing on it for the first time, I was like, wow, this is great. And then I shaved off of it. And I guess I've got about 6 or 8 edges off of it. And the last one, the one I shaved with this morning, was like really stupendous. You know, I kind of hit that like I'm dialed in zone. And yeah, it was just wow. Just wowza, you know. It wasn't like laser razor. It wasn't like annihilating the beard in that way. It was doing a very similar job to that with a little bit of texture, not texture to the cut, like not popping on the whiskers, not that, but I could feel the cut still. And but it was a very, very smooth, continuous cut. And that's probably, you know, for most people, that's probably the ideal edge. The laser razors are, in my opinion, you know, too many people in the past have been like, nah, that's too difficult to shave with. Feels harsh to me. It's very difficult to develop that touch. Now, I don't know if you can see, I'm having a little bit of difficulty getting rather, up here, undercut all the way up to the toe. I say difficulty, but let's just say the, what do you call it? Slight warp and grind is not conducive. So I'm going to work a little bit. Basically, I just try and fool the steel a little bit. Because when you're cutting, right, you got striations. They're all going in a particular way. There's an old theory, and I subscribe to it, that those striations and your abrasives, they get dialed into each other. When you change direction, you'll see me do this quite often. Actually, I try to not do this on camera because too many people give me shit over it, and it's like I just get tired of answering the emails. It's like, dude, this is how I hone. Go away, leave me alone. But what I'm doing is I'm confusing the steel striations, and I'm going the other way, and then I come back. And what I do is I remove the possibility of the abrasive and the striations to become dialed into one another. I feel that this helps create a more efficient honing scenario, and I did not come up with this on my own, okay, but it is something that I work with quite often. It was taught to me by somebody who could really, really put one hell of an edge on a blade. All right, and so I learned from him, and I took his thoughts and I adapted them to my own, and that's what honing is all about. So like, if you think that's all bullshit, that's fine. I don't care. You know, it's like, whatever, go hone whatever way you want to. Maybe you want to do circles upside down in a vacuum in, you know, a zero gravity environment. I don't, it doesn't matter, man. It's honing, you know, it doesn't matter. As long as as long as you're good with your shave, I don't care how you get the edge. It's not my point. My point is to help you open your mind, to get away from the bullshit that's put out there by these posers and these entrepreneurs that all they want to do is take money out of your pocket. Yes, I sell stuff. I do, okay? And I make a couple of bucks from it. But if you know me and you know how I sell, you know that is not what you would call a great financial consideration. I sell stuff on Etsy here and there. I don't have access. I don't buy wholesale. Everything I get, I hone, I test, I describe to the nines. You know, I don't come on here and tell you that this is the best razor in the world, or this is the best stone in the world, and this is the only way to hone. I will never do that, all right? My whole thing about my website and bringing stones in and getting dialed into Nagura and all of that was basically an effort to combat the bullshit that was making me sick on the shaving forums, okay? I couldn't take it anymore. I just watch personality after personality come in with the sole purpose of creating a brand and driving sales to line their pocket. I can name names, I can call them all out. That I don't have to. Most of you know. If you don't know, then you don't need to. You know. They all had the same MO. You know, they were honing for like 4 months, and they became geniuses and JNAT experts and what have you, and they proved their competency by ownership of property. In other words, so they bought like 10 or 2 dozen JNATs. So, you know, you impress the newcomers. Like, oh my God, that guy's got 20 JNATs. He must be a honing god. No, he's just a guy with 20 JNATs. Yeah, through most of my honing thing, there have been times when I have owned over 20. I probably have over 20 here now, but for the most part, I can tell you I've never focused on numbers, and I have focused on basically one thing and one thing only: understanding the diversity of stones and the diversity of the myriad of applications that are possible, and how to apply them to the task at hand. That's it. That's been like my entire ball game, you know. My YouTube channel, this thing started because I did a video of stills that I shot while I was restoring a razor, and that actually evolved out of a thread on a shaving forum. You know, I'm posting up the photos, and people were like commenting in between the posts, and I'm like, please don't do that, I'm doing a story. And they're like, whoa. Everybody's got to be an idiot sometimes. So I just made the video, and yeah, I have like zero tolerance for like stupid adolescent bullshit, you know. I'm sorry, maybe I'm too old, but like, you know, that kiddie crap, it's like I'm trying to do something and you just gotta like stick your face in it, like photo bombing. Yeah, I want to smack people in the head when they do that. As a professional photographer for like 30 some odd years, I can tell you that I have literally chased down photo bombers to ridicule them. It's just like, grow the fuck up already, man, you know? Have some respect. Have some respect for yourself. And more importantly, if you can't muster that, then at least show respect for other people. So anyway, yeah, there was all that stuff on the forums. There was all this anger. And again, with the MO, when people come in, all of a sudden, you know, they become experts in like, you know, 90 days. You know, and then they spend the rest of their time basically going after the people that have been there longer than them and who have a good reputation, and they harass them and they try to make them look foolish in an effort to devalue the worth of their opinion. It's the same MO all the time, you know, and you'll see it everywhere. You'll see it on Reddit, you'll see whatever, and it's a tactic that works because you can't really fight it, all right, unless you're going to sit there and do battle all day on the internet. I don't, you know. I left the forum because of it, because one of the mods there had this tactic with quoting and bubbling everything I said and coming after me for it. And the last time it happened, I just lumped everything up into one big response that basically was a complete reiteration for the thing he was trying to denounce. So basically, I just flipped them off without actually doing it. And I don't go to that forum anymore. You know, I respect the guy's honing talents tremendously, but I think he's a dick because of the way he acted. And I just don't need that shit in my life. Anyway, that's my thing with honing and this, right? So I got this lovely stone, and it put this wicked edge, and now this blade is back to square one where it was before I started beating up on it again. Yeah, so I just want to talk a little bit about, you know, the so-called evaluation process and what it is that, like, I do. You know, I don't do much really. I just hone and I figure it out as I go. You know, if I was going to buy like 100 razors, I might put a little more effort into like figuring them out one by one. But you know, after you handle, and I'm not trying to sound conceited, but after you handle like, you know, a couple hundred razors, right? And I'm way past that now. But after you handle a couple hundred, you kind of like, there's no surprises. You know, you look at the spine wear, you look at the edge, you can see how the heel comes down to the bevel, the start of the bevel, right? You can see the toe wear up at the toe, the toe wear up at the toe. Where else would it be? You can see the toe wear up here. You can see whether or not the spine wear is dropping down up here. And these are all things that will tell you about the geometry of the blade, what you're working with. So I guess if I'm going to say anything, just keep doing it. Keep doing it and pay attention to what it is you're doing. And when you make a mistake, openly admit it. Don't try and hide it and pretend you didn't make it, because it's not to your advantage. Other people who matter will chime in and they'll say, yo, yeah, I did that too, man. And this is what I did to look out for it. Yeah, there's going to be, thing one and thing two are going to show up and throw rocks at you, but fuck them, man. Those people are short-lived. They may stick around for a long time, but what happens is their popularity wanes because people get tired of the fast answer. They get tired of the drama. They get tired of the bullshit, because lies have a way of floating to the surface as the turds they are in a cesspool. And then all of a sudden, some guy says, you know what? You've given me 6 wrong answers in the last year. I'm not going to you for answers anymore. And then those people are gone, Anyway, I'm kind of here for the long haul because I shave all the time. And shaving is something that I do all the time. And honing is something I got to do to keep my shaving going. And, I'm making a video or two here and there is no big deal. And I have friends that send me stones from Japan. So, they'll be around, So, anyway, listen, there's probably, effectively a couple hours left of Labor Day Sunday, and then most of you guys, gals, have tomorrow off. I have to go to work. But listen, have some fun, do some honing, family first, get out there and spend time with your loved ones, and enjoy the holiday. And if you get to hone a little bit, even better. And remember, always have fun. Talk to you soon.